Hello team, welcome back to 500 English Super Tips, and today is tip number 4. All right, before we get into tip number 4 though, this is one of those times when we really need to start by stepping backwards. Let's go to tip number 3 for a moment. In tip number 3, we learned that do always partners with verb form number 1. That's the basic form or regular form. We say, I do speak, I do play, I do eat. Do plus verb 1. And remember, it's not just do, but the whole do family. The do family partners with verb 1. And we might think, we go all the way back to our first tip. Tip number 1, we learned that there are 5 forms of the verb in English. So what about using the do family with verb 2 or verb 3, verb 4? Maybe we could... No, this is not allowed. It's a kind of good news for us. When you see a do family verb, you can eliminate this problem. You will never need those other ones. If it's a do family, it's going to be verb 1. That's what we learned in tip number 3. Now, let's continue going backwards to tip number 2. In tip number 2, we learned about helping verbs, and we learned that there were 4 of them, right? The 4 helping verbs. And do was our first helping verb. Modal is our second, then have, and then be. So, in tip number 3, we learned that do works with verb 1. Today, we are at the modals. In tip number 4 today, we're going to check out what happens when we use a modal verb. What is its partner? What is its team? So, modal will be our big concern today in this tip. Okay, we have our modal verbs. Let's review them or think about what are the modals. So, modals are words like can and could and may and, of course, might. You probably know should, and the longer version of should is ought to. It could be will or it could be would. And there are some more. These modal verbs, these are the modal family. Okay, the modal family. Not just one helping verb, but a family of helping verbs. Those are 8 of the most common modals, but that's not all of them. The modal family is very big. They come from one of those societies with the big families. I don't know. Anyway, the modal families are very big. So, modal verbs, all of the modal family, it's going to work with verb 1, 4. It's going to work with verb 3, verb 1, verb 4. Which verb does it work with? Tell me. Modal plus verb? What do you think? It's verb 1. Okay, modal works with verb 1. That might sound familiar because we've already learned that do also uses verb 1. That's correct also. These are both correct. Do, verb 1, modal, verb 1. Okay, so modal and verb 1 go together. Let's try some practice questions. I'll bring in a picture. We'll look at a question and try to get the answer. Let's bring in a very nice lady here. Okay, this is Mrs. Nobunaga. Mrs. Nobunaga can yoga exercises. Well, what could we put in the blank here? Let's get some options. These are yoga exercises. She doesn't play them. She performs them. So we have perform, verb 1, performed, verb 2, the ed for verb 2, performing, ing is verb 4, and performs is verb 5. Okay? All right, well, here's my first thought. I'm looking at this sentence. I want to find the right answer for the blank space. A, B, C, or D. Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, or Delta. I look at the blank space and I think, let me go to the subject. The subject is Mrs. Nobunaga. Now, if this is Mrs. Nobunaga, that is a she. Right? That's a she. He, she, it. Verb 5. So I might think my answer is Delta. It's the wrong answer. Okay? Mrs. Nobunaga is the subject, but that's not what controls this sentence. The king of this sentence, the control of this sentence, is not from Mrs. Nobunaga. So, What controls the sentence? It's the smallest word there. It's the word can. This little, short, simple modal verb has more power than her name. It has more power than yoga. It has more power than exercises. The king of the sentence is the word can. So focus on that can. Can is a modal. You see that word modal up there? Modal plus verb 1, right? If we have a can, we need perform. Can perform. That is the correct answer. All right? No performs, no performing. If we have can, we want verb 1, the basic form or simple form. All right, she looks very healthy, looks very happy, but she's a rather older lady. I wonder if we could catch a picture of her from the past. Let's see. Can we take her back in time? Oh, look that's her. That's Mrs. Nobunaga when she was a young girl. Oh, how nice. Okay. Here's our question. But when she was younger, she could volleyball. All right, let's get some answer choices here. A, play, verb 1. B, played, verb 2. C, playing, verb 4. And D, plays, verb 5. Okay, when I look at the sentence, but when she was younger. Aha, was. I see what this teacher is trying to do. Trying to trick me by putting it in the past, And I see that word could is there too. And I know can is for now and could is for the past. So this looks like a past sentence. And I know the past is verb 2. So I'm going to choose bravo, played. How about it? No way. Wrong answer. Kind of good thinking. We always have to think about time in English, but it's not the right answer. Was does not control this sentence. The past does not control this sentence. The control of the sentence is from the word could, and could is a modal verb. If we have a modal, we must have verb 1, and verb 1 is play. That's the right answer. Now we got it. Let's bring in another practice question here. Oh, what happened, ladies? Come on, you've got school tomorrow. Oh, okay. Well, anyway, we better get a question up here before I talk about the picture anymore. Tomorrow is New Year's Eve. We might... Too much. Tomorrow is New Year's Eve, the night before the New Year. We might, too much. Which word controls the sentence? Do we want to say drink, drank, drunk, or drinking? Think about it a minute. Get your answer. Okay. We see the word might is in there. What is might? Oh, you're right. Good answer. That's a modal. Exactly. If we have a modal, what do we need? Oh, you're exactly right. We need verb 1. So if we use might, we automatically need drink. It doesn't matter that it's New Year. It doesn't matter that it's tomorrow, not today. It doesn't matter if they drink a lot or a little. None of that matters. The thing that matters, the only thing that matters, might is a modal. Modal plus verb 1. That's our right answer. There we go. We might drink too much. It doesn't really look like a might situation. Might means maybe or maybe not. They look kind of like maybe yes. But anyway, let's bring in another example. We'll do 2 more. Interesting vehicle here. Very nice. In the future, we will in flying cars. Okay. What do you think? We'll put answers on the right side over there. We can have Alpha, ride, Bravo, rode, Charlie, ridden, or Delta, riding. A, B, C, or D. What do you think? The time is very noticeable here, right? This is clearly about the future. And when we talk about the future, we use will. Okay, so will is for the future. It's about time. But that's not what gives us the answer. What gives us the answer is will is a, you got it, modal, and modal plus verb 1. In the future, we will ride in flying cars. Modal, verb 1. And let's bring in our cowboy here. Ooh, that horse is going up and down, right? Up, down, a lot of force, a lot of energy. So that cowboy ought to tight. Here come our answers. A, hang on. B, hung on. C, hanging on. Or D, hangs on. Okay, let's do a quick vocabulary check. What is hang on? Hang on just means to hold something very tight. Like use your hand and hold it very closely. Don't let go. Don't release your hand. So that is hang on, okay? He needs to hang on or that horse is going to throw him off. All right, that cowboy ought to, well, there's our key, ought to. Ought to is a modal. It has two parts, so it's a phrasal modal, a modal verb with two parts. And ought to means should, or it's giving advice. It's saying this is a good idea. You should do it. It's a good idea to do it. You ought to do it. So that cowboy ought to. Ought to is a modal. Modal plus verb 1. Alpha is our verb 1. Hang on. That cowboy ought to hang on tight. All right. So I don't have a lot more to offer you on this one. I just wanted to show you how modal plus verb 1 is a very common, very expected, very normal part of English sentences. You will see it 100 times a day when you're living in the United States or England or Australia or Scotland or South Africa. Modal plus verb 1 is a super common, very useful form in the English language. Remember, when we talk about modals, we used several of them today, but there are more. And in the future, in another tip, we will study the modals and we'll learn more of them. Okay? So remember, do plus verb 1. Now add modal plus verb 1. Okay? You can see where we're going in the future, right? Okay. We know do and modal for verb 1. Now we need to know about have and be. So that will be our next step. What should we use with have? What should we use with be? Come back for tip number 5 and we will study that together. Okay? So that's the end of tip number 4. We have completed it. It's tip number 4 out of 500. So we still have plenty left to go. Thank you very much for joining me on tip number 4. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to. Share it with a friend and also share a question or a comment down below. Any questions about this? Let's talk about it in the comments section. I'll see you in tip number 5. Thanks very much, everybody. Bye-bye for now.